This franchise will not self-destruct for the next 29 years. Da 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 doo 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 da da. I'm John Rentham with the retro review of Mission Impossible for 1996, based on the mega popular and very iconic and really done to death concept that was founded in the original Mission Impossible TV series. You know, it's kind of funny that a show that only ran for a few seasons was seen as something they could use for material for what was supposed to, I think, be a standalone movie with a possible sequel based on the ending. But man, it's just become a monolithic franchise where budgetaries, like caps have just been exploded, and words are not making any goddamn sense. And noted Scientologist crackpot and short shit Tom Cruise, tremendous actor by the way, just want to get that out there. He would become somebody that would do so many insane stunts, and now we are coming up on the 8th and final Mission Impossible movie. So I decided, why not check this out and see, does it still hold up? And you know what? Yeah, it mostly does. I will say I don't really love the Mission Impossible franchise. It really started to jump the shark with the second one. And by the time I got to about the third, I've actually never seen all of the other ones after the third. Kind of like the Harry Potter franchise. I've seen clips, I've seen bits. But nevertheless, I'm going to rewatch all these over the next couple months and decided, why not check this film out? And yeah, it's been years. I do remember watching this in theaters. It's entertaining. Don't get me wrong. I do love Tom Cruise as an actor. He is very, very talented and very dedicated and very committed. And probably should be committed, but I digress. This was directed by Brian De Palma, who did Carrie, The Fury, Dressed to Kill, Scarface, The Untouchables, Carlito's Way. The man's done a lot of great films. He's also done some stuff that's questionable, at least as far as filmmaking. This was written by David Coop, who did Jurassic Park, Stir of Echoes. He also recently wrote Presence. At least I should have said wrote Presence, in the sense that basically Presence had dialogue and it just wasn't well written. But Robert Towne also had something to do with this. He did Chinatown and Frantic. Like Stimulant Tantric, like Snickers Guaranteed to Satisfied. If you know what that's from, my God, I love you guys. And Steve Zaillian, however you say that. Zaillian. Searching for Bobby Fischer and Schindler's List. You know, there are some movies I'll never retro review, and Schindler's List is probably one of them. So it was based on the show by Bruce Geller. Bruce Geller called. And yes, you have Tom Cruise, you have Jon Voight. Gee, I wonder who the villain was in this. Speaking of crackpots, Jon Voight, that piece of shit insane maniac that's had some good roles. He was also in Megalopolis. You have the very talented and not very, well, the very talented as far as, I guess, looking good and looking sultry, Emmanuelle Bierrt, however you say it. She was beautiful back then. I mean, still is now. You do have Kristen Scott Thomas, who looked great in 1996, by the way. Ving Rhames, Jean Reno. Man, Jean Reno just was everywhere in the goddamn 90s. Vanessa Redgrave was also in this as Max, not the streaming service. And Henry Caverney Cesar. I'm just going to call him Cesar. Anyway, he's a good character actor. Yeah, the big screen adaptation of this classic television show, where a list of, agents' names is going to get leaked, and only Ethan, don't call me Mike Hunt, can stop this whole thing. So, had an $80 million budget, which would just be about twice that today, $162 million. $45.4 million opening, and that'd be $92 million in today's money. $181 million domestic gross, which is pretty good. And that'd be about $366.4 million in today's money. $457.6 million. And that's for a worldwide haul, which would be $926.5 million in today's money. It's a basic plot, and really it's not surprising at all who the villain is. You can tell Brian De Palma's stylish direction actually is what saves this, because it is fairly generic and fairly ridiculous. I forgot Emilio Estevez was in this. I actually forgot about Emilio Estevez, who apparently, according to a friend of mine, has gone more producing and directing, since I guess he rolled a D3 instead and couldn't be in the Mighty Ducks anymore. Har har. Yeah, Alyssa's going to get out in the open. There's a thing that goes absolutely tits up. They really didn't have very distinguishable, disguises from their normal looks. A lot of masks, though, worn by Ethan. The mask budget must have been insane, just ripping out the mask. See, it looked cool the first time he did it, and then by the time he did like the third or fourth time, I go, okay, that now it's whatever, it's fine. And yeah, everybody just basically dies from the, from this mission. They're all compromised. I mean, getting to be in an alleyway with Kristen Scott Thomas at that point must have been pretty fun, but nevertheless, I did like how Jon Voight was on the plane, and this tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds, and then there's smoke from the plane because it's self-destructed. Wouldn't smoke on a plane, even in 96, have warranted them going, and making a landing? It's fine. Man, that dated computer technology is nuts. The list is in the open. Oh, Prague, there's nothing like you guys. Prague. Where is Prague? It's somewhere further from here. The upwards camera shots where they were like shooting it, and it was like the camera was like a couple feet off the table, but it was shooting up on the people, was a choice, but nevertheless. This goes, basically the idea is this emailing technology, man, emailing technology is just so funny. It goes back to Job 3:14, except it's Job 3:14, the book of Job from the Bible. Okay, creative, I'll give them that, even if that's just a storybook. But Job 3:14, by the way, says, I just hunted your ass. You're welcome. And Ethan basically is disavowed. He has to assemble a team and has to figure out what's going on. He has to find a way to get a meeting with Max, Vanessa Redgrave, who at least didn't play down to the material. She played, she used her skill to, not just coast through it. I'll give her that much credit. And, yeah, also you do have Claire, who's Emmanuel's character, and she was married to Jim, but she's all upset. She suddenly shows back up, conveniently, after obviously Jim was killed. He was killed. Jon Voight was dead. Unfortunately, not actually dead. That's the unfortunate thing. That motherfucker's still alive. But, yeah, Ethan's seeing crazy things. They're all dead. He's yelling, they're all dead. Okay, there are times where his line reading's a little bit silly. And let's assemble a team. We trust Jean Reno. I don't know why you would in movies like this, but Jean Reno's a terrific actor. Ving Rhames. I remember Ving Rhames. Where has Ving Rhames been lately? And, yeah, God, the poor broad was married to Jon Voight. Man, I'd be upset too. So the idea is they have to break into there was this disc, but it was a dummy disc. It was for a mole hunt. And there's this character, Kittredge, played by Henry. And I think deep down, Kittredge knew that Jim was behind it, but he just had to, get Ethan to basically either take the fall or get Voight out in the open. So the idea is they are going to break into the CIA headquarters in Langley. And it's kind of humorous how they do that. They set up where the guy that, has access to it ends up throwing up quite a bit. He's got a little dot on his back, I guess, that makes him sick, or maybe he just couldn't stand, maybe he just got so nervous that he threw up being around a beautiful woman like Emmanuel. I guess maybe I will confess my love for her. Shut up. But Ethan's idea is, hey, Ving Rhames, you're going to the fuck is his name? Luther, that's his name. I was going to call him Lister. That wasn't right. Basically, can you tell that I enjoy these movies, but I'm not necessarily into the narrative? He says, hack this stuff and make sure everything's okay, but this whole thing is really regimented. Like, there is a temperature control, there's a weight control, and there's, a sound, control. Anything above a whisper, any raise in temperature, a drop of sweat, any pressure on the floor, unless that room is, the measures are deactivated, you're fucked. I don't know why the line Barnes, what the hell is that noise, made me laugh, but it did. And Jean Reno is in the duct and lowering Ethan on this cable. But then suddenly the guy comes back and he's in the vault and all this, and oh no, has to raise Ethan up, but can't raise him all the way up because the guy doesn't have the ability to look up, but he does have the ability to throw up, and he throws up quite a bit. This gives Ethan just enough time to break in, use that, the information superhighway, this computer. It has over 500 bytes of RAM. And he hacks into it, gets the list, and the idea is he's going to give it to Vanessa Redgrave to clear his name. Why not? Or so we think, because double, triple twist. So, there's a rat in the viaduct. Jean Reno almost causes Ethan to hit the goddamn floor, but that leads to a great shot of him just splayed out like that, because who didn't want to see Tom Cruise splayed out like that? You're welcome for the image of Tom Cruise splayed out. Because if I have to think of these images, and so do you. So, yeah, it turns out that Jean Reno is not exactly trustworthy. I mean the actor. Maybe the actor isn't, but I don't know, he's pretty reliable. The character, I mean. And he thinks that he has the list. But Ethan pretends that he has the list just to get and says to Ving Rhames, hey, take this. Luther, take this. You take a hold of this. Why do you trust me? Well, if you knew what we were doing, you wouldn't have gotten into it. Okay, bold and kind of stupid, but fine. Sure. And Kit Ridge basically is trying to get to them. They are trying to, find a way to basically blow this whole thing up. Jim shows back up. Ethan automatically knew, by the way, that Jim was behind all this. And Jim is like, well, it was inevitable that somebody was going to betray us. I didn't betray us. Why would you think that, Ethan? I didn't betray you. So they go on the London terminus. That's the big old bullet train thing. That leads to some pretty funny shit here, where they're using an internet connection on a bullet train in 96 to download this list. And yeah, Redgrave basically says, hey, go into this briefcase in his baggage claim, and there's your $10 million in bond shit, whatever the fuck it is. But suddenly Claire shows up and is talking to Jim in the baggage claim and says, man, Jim, do we have to kill him? Do we have to do this? And suddenly, oh no, twist! It's Ethan under a mask. But he doesn't see Jon Voight standing right over there. Except he thinks that Jon Voight's with him. Except he's not with him. What's going on? We only have a few minutes left, by the way. But the idea is Jim knew that Claire would betray him. Used her basically to get to Ethan and get the list and stuff like that. Now he's going to sell it off, I guess. The plot gets a little bit stupid here. So, the stamped Bible, by the way, is what gave it away for Ethan, because, Jim Phelps, Jon Voight basically talked about how, he was on one of his other missions, the Drake Hotel in Chicago. It was stamped, the damn Gideons. Sure, whatever. And then we see the camera glasses come back, because those were used earlier in the film, and, Kit Ridge sees him. Good morning, Mr. Phelps. That was kind of nice. That was a nice callback for that. That was good. And now the idea is Jon Voight's going to escape on top of the train. Old man Jon Voight that doesn't look like he's done an athletic thing in his life. And this was 96, mind you. And Ethan goes out there with him. And, there are easier ways to get to your baggage claim without going and almost being blown off of there. And suddenly, Jim's plan, is revealed to get away on this helicopter that Jean Reno was flying. What? Yeah, he's behind this whole thing the whole time. And then we get this funny scene where Ethan has his cable, clips a helicopter to part of the train, and now suddenly, somehow, despite the fact that it hits the roof a little bit, or the roof of the tunnel, it doesn't crash, and now it's just flying like this, and it's silly and ridiculous. Yeah, technology is a little bit dated, but it's fine. $80 million budget even for then could buy you a lot. And they're battling on this train while the wind's rushing by them, and they're going by really goddamn fast. Ethan almost gets hit by a train. And earlier had used this gum. Red light, green light. You don't chew it, you mash it, and it's a plastic explosive. Essentially, he used it to break out of a restaurant without paying the bill and broke the aquarium when he thought Kittredge was in on the whole goddamn thing. But this time he uses it to blow up the helicopter and then almost gets hit with the blade. The blade comes right about here. But he is not dead. And Max gets caught. And then Kittredge is like, hey, good job. And him and Ving Rhames are now free to do what they want any old time. But then... basically, we get a callback to the tape thing on, that Mr. Phelps dealt with. And the lady, I don't know her name, she was, as a flight attendant, she was attractive. She says, oh, would you like a movie? Perhaps something, involving the Caribbean. Aruba, perhaps. Aruba, Jamaica. Boy, I want to take you to a sequel in 2000, and we're going to get to that in a bit. Look, the movie gets like a B. It's silly, it's ridiculous, but it's fun. I mean, it's fun. It's not great. It's a little dated and a little typical. Even for back then, it was pretty typical. But it was a good big budget adaptation, and the box office haul guaranteed we were going to get at least one more sequel. And then we got more. But more on those later. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritland, and I'll see you soon.